I say it all the time, there's a bias when it comes to mainstream media. Whether if it's CNN, Fox News, or MSNBC, there's always some form of bias being broadcast on your television. But for some reason, when it comes to black lives being lost, there's seemingly always this bias that it only happens whether if a black person is unarmed or if they're the victim of a white person or a cop. Any other black death is seemingly not given the same national news coverage as it would be if it pertains to a white person or a cop taking the life of someone, whether if it's justified or not. But we're gonna put a pin in that for the moment, and I'll bring that back up later in this video.
Ma'Khia Bryant, a 16-year-old girl that was shot and killed by police after she attempted to stab another person during an altercation. While this should be an open and closed case for anyone with two working eyeballs and common sense, race hustlers, on the other hand, are once again trying to frame this incident as another case of racial injustice.
When news first broke about Ma'Khia Bryant, you had all these different people getting on social media to give you their hot takes and act as if they were on the scene as it was happening, and you had a lot of people claiming a bunch of different things that were factually inaccurate once the evidence came out. And the thing about that always bothers me is that when these situations happen, there are always these blue check marks and all of these politicians and all of these leaders who go out of their way to tell you what happened when they don't even know what happened itself. A black teenage girl named Ma'Khia Bryant was killed because a police officer immediately decided to shoot her multiple times in order to break up a knife fight. Demand accountability, fight for justice, hashtag Black Lives Matter. As we breathed a collective sigh of relief today, a community in Columbus felt the sting of another police shooting as Columbus police killed an unarmed 15-year-old black girl named Ma'Khia Bryant. Another child lost, another hashtag justice for Ma'Khia Bryant. And the thing about these tweets and various other opinions about this is that these were made before body cam footage came out. And so if you were to just go based off of these tweets, you would think, oh, this is another travesty. Oh, this is another situation of a police officer abusing their power and taking the life of someone who is so innocent. But the thing about that is body cam footage came out, and while I'm not going to show that on this channel, it is easily accessible and you could easily find it. And once you look at that body cam footage, you can clearly see that that officer did not immediately show up and shoot someone, did not immediately target a black person and choose them for death. He came on the scene, looked, assessed the situation. Apparently in the situation, a brawl broke out. There was a scuffle. A woman falls on the ground and they see Ma'Khia Bryant to the side, literally a split second away from stabbing someone, and the officer responds with shooting them. I think what infuriates me the most about the body cam footage coming out is that after all of these people posted their hot takes and their rush to judgments and the body cam footage came out and disproved all of that, these same people still tried to make excuses to demonize the cop. And my three favorite ones were give her a warning shot, tackle her, or shoot her in the leg. And each one of those excuses really proves to me how much people don't know what to do in a split second situation. Just imagine you're an officer and you're dealing with a situation where somebody is a split second away from stabbing another person. Do you think it's wise to shoot a warning shot in the air? Especially if you know how science works, the bullet is going to come back down, and if that bullet hits somebody, you have an unintended whoopsie on your hands that you're going to have to deal with later. And this idea of he should have tackled her, that is an Olympic style thinking process right there, because the man is literally a good distance away from Ma'Khia about to stab somebody. In that split second, you want somebody to do an Olympic jump to stop another person from stabbing another individual. I'm not athletic. I'm pretty sure most people who made that criticism aren't athletic. It wouldn't have been able to be done, and in that split second, somebody was going to get stabbed regardless. And the idea of shooting her in the leg, it's obvious that some of you don't know how arteries work, but I have a video for you, and I'm going to link it in the description, of how and why cops don't usually shoot people in the legs, so that idea immediately gets shut down as well.
One of the countless reasons that the Black Lives Matter movement infuriates me so much is because of the obvious selective outrage as it pertains to Black death. I know that black on black crime is a topic that people would rather keep avoiding, but in the case of Ma'Khia Bryant, it proved in real time how much Black death has been normalized within our culture. Apparently, Ma'Khia was involved in a fight, so her family called the police for help. Once the cops arrived on the scene, you can hear Ma'Khia scream, "I'm going to stab the fuck out of you," as she proceeds to lunge at the other girl, which at that point, the officer shoots her. This would have been a lose-lose situation for that officer, regardless of what he did, because if Ma'Khia was able to successfully stab the other girl, the outrage would have been about how the officer failed to serve and protect. And as much as I wish Ma'Khia was still alive, the unfortunate reality is that we all make choices in life. Some are bad and some are good. But the second you decide to pick up a knife and attempt to take someone else's life is the moment that you decide to forfeit your own.
I want to circle back to the excuses people were throwing out on social media because it speaks volumes how all of these people have such a large following that just listen and agree with what they're saying without any sort of research whatsoever. Because even after the body cam footage came out and disproved a bunch of people's initial thoughts with no evidence, there were still people doing whatever they could to grasp at straws to make you understand and make you listen and know that even though this body cam footage came out and disproved that she was unarmed, that she wasn't aggressing, that she wasn't a split second away from stabbing somebody, there's still a problem, and it's a problem that is so stupid I'm still going to address it because I have a large Twitter following. Teenagers have been having fights, including fights involving knives, for eons. We don't need police to address these situations by showing up to the scene and using a weapon against one of the teenagers. Y'all need help, and I mean that sincerely. Everyone should be frightened that the ruling white elite have done such a thorough, successful job of not only disconnecting us from the means of basic self-sufficiency, but also convincing us we need armed white officers to manage our children and communities. Frightening. But the thing about that is, why are we talking about self-sufficiency without self-accountability also attached to that? I agree. We have this weird ideology and this weird mindset that lacks self-sufficiency along with accountability. And guess what? In this situation, the accountability falls on Ma'Khia Bryant. She was the one who called the police. She was the one who addressed that she needed help. And when the officers came to assist her, she was the one who had a weapon in her hand a split second away from stabbing somebody, which could have led to someone's death. I don't know about you, but someone in that situation lacks accountability, and it's not the white officer who did his job. They're trained to eliminate a threat. And guess what? Ma'Khia, even though she was on the phone as the victim when the officers showed up, she was the only visible threat. And I know that there's some male in the video saying, "You shot my baby." That same person was about to kick someone in the back of the head. So he can't even sit there and look so innocent himself. There's a lack of self-efficiency and accountability. And in that moment, like I already said, Ma'Khia is the one who lacked the accountability. Plus, you had LeBron tweeting out "you're next," and he had a bunch of other bad takes about this whole situation. And it speaks volumes at how he has such a large audience and how they do no research and how they think whatever LeBron is saying is right because it's LeBron. He's done all these great things, which he has for all of these communities, but he didn't even have the body cam footage information. He didn't have all the evidence. He should not, just like everyone else, should not have made such a knee-jerk statement already, especially off the heels of Derek Chauvin. I get that everyone's feelings were uplifted, everyone had their opinions validated, everyone got what they wanted in terms of this trial and him being guilty, but to sit there and label this officer as the next person is completely idiotic, especially when you are supposed to be this leader, this motivator, spitting out false information, spitting out information that you didn't even have a full grasp of, and it makes you look like somebody who's fanning the flames of violence. Everybody likes to talk about how Trump inspired a bunch of people to go attack the Capitol on January 6th, and he got banned for that. By the same rules of Twitter, LeBron, Maxine Waters, and all these different people who were fanning flames of violence also need to get banned for their lack of information and stupidity when it came to this situation.
Hey, Twitter world, it's me, yours truly. Tough morning listening to all the criticism that LeBron James is getting. I'm a fan of LeBron. I admire the work that he's done, how he's helped his community and how he's helped his friends, and how he's been fighting all of these social issues, especially that of systemic racism in the legal system and with the police departments around our country. But you can't fight every battle. You know, you can't, you got to pick your battles. I mean, it's a war that must be fought, but sometimes you need to take your time and be a little more patient before you comment on some of these bad incidences that are happening with police departments. This one, LeBron should have waited. I'm a little upset with most of the media because they showed us edited versions of what took place with the girl with the knife. They made it sound as if this was another police officer overreacting and killing a young black American. Well, from what I saw when I saw the full tape, the police guy had no choice. He responded. We wish he could have pulled a taser. We wish he could have done it in another way. But in that instance, if he hadn't done what he did, it appeared to me if another young American would have had her life taken. And hey, I can't fault what he did. I wish it was different, but I can't fault it. But LeBron, keep fighting the fight. I think we all got to be a little more patient. I'm against defunding the police. I think you just got to redirect some of those funds to better training and maybe dealing with more psychological training. In any event, God bless. Wear your mask, get your shots. I'm just saying.
But by far the weirdest thing I saw about this entire thing was Ma'Khia Bryant being fat matters. The violence that young fat black girls experienced contributed to her death, and if you don't understand why, y'all need to start cracking open some fucking books on fat phobia. Every single tweet is being fat phobic, is being reported, and you'll be blocked. I'm not playing with y'all, because yes, for some reason being fat is the reason you were about to stab somebody, and anyone with a different opinion, you're being reported and blocked because I'm fat and everything I say is true. And if you go against that, you're nothing but a fat phobic, hateful human being who does nothing but spit in the face of fat people, and you're body shaming and all these weird different excuses because no one wants to sit there and actually look at the facts of the situation, which is, yes, Ma'Khia called the cops. Yes, she called as the victim. Yes, she was in foster care, but that doesn't change the fact that when that officer showed up, she was the one who was visibly seen as the aggressor. And again, I have to stretch this point because in case anyone seemingly doesn't get it, if the officer didn't do what he was supposed to do in that situation, she was gonna stab somebody. And then what the headline was gonna be, oh, white officer stands back as black teenagers fight and it leads to someone dying. It was a lose-lose for the officer to begin with, only because he's white. If he was black, maybe he would have gotten a pass for it. It's time to take that pin out that I was talking about in the beginning of the video. Why is it that when it's a black person losing their life to a white individual or a cop, we seemingly have to protest, we have to riot, we have to do all these seminars, we have to talk about how oppressed we are in America, we have to sit here and lecture everybody about what it means to be white and how being white is bad. But when it's a black person taking another black person's life, that's just something we don't acknowledge whatsoever. Or in some instances, it's a conservative talking point when you're mentioning black on black crime.
Of a child. Cincinnati police say his 13-year-old daughter, Nyara Givens, was stabbed to death by another 13-year-old girl last night during a fight near her home on Top Ridge Place. Tonight, prayers help ease the heartache, but barely.
Just try my best to protect her and be the father that I could be, you know. I guess I didn't pay attention to all the other stuff that was going on around her.
Maurice says his daughter was the second oldest of 7 children. He says she helped keep the family together and loved school. Maurice says she was a freshman at Aiken High and went to school with the girl who stabbed her. He says they were on and off friends, but his daughter was being bullied. Community leaders called the scene tragic.
Learn how to solve problems one towards another, because just because you're mad at somebody doesn't mean that their life has to be taken because of that.
A 13-year-old's life stolen this time, and a family broken.
Just the pain I'm feeling right now is just it's unexplainable. It's very unexplainable. She should be burying me. I should be burying her.
The problem with BLM is it never addresses personal responsibility. It's very easy to get riled up and scold an officer for using excessive force, but how about we do something to prevent that officer from being there in the first place? Ma'Khia was in foster care, and it's estimated that 70% of black households only have one parent at home. And when you have broken homes, you have broken communities. This child was clearly never taught conflict resolution, but if she had proper guidance, this could have all been avoided. And yes, I know that unarmed black people are still killed by police, but those cases are less than the amount of people struck by lightning every year. Now, black on black crime, on the other hand, is constant. And if we were to compare the rate at which black people kill each other compared to the rate at which other races kill each other, then you might understand why BLM frustrates me so much. People are willing to march the streets, start riots, put up hashtags, and raise millions of dollars for these extremely rare incidents. Yet when the violence is being perpetuated by people who share the same skin color, it's painfully silent. Black America has normalized black death. And in the case of Ma'Khia Bryant's would-be victim, didn't her life matter?
We can all agree that people's lives being taken unjustly is a thing. Don't act as if it doesn't exist. Don't act as if there aren't countless examples of people losing their lives when they shouldn't have whatsoever. It's a thing that happens far too often for it to be something that we just casually start talking about in certain conversations. But it's completely and utterly ignorant for anyone to sit there and say, oh, we're only going to talk about this and make this national news. It's completely idiotic for people to not pay attention to other things that are also a detriment to the black community. Us killing each other is just as bad as a white person doing it. Spare me the racial inequalities, spare me the oppression speech. Someone's life being taken away unfairly is a problem, and we need to do a better job of addressing it, not just for cops, not just for white people, but within our own communities. And if we're not going to do that, and if we're instead going to just prop up all of these different news articles about how white people are bad, black people are oppressed, and we all need to just understand that we're all going to be different forever and not actually build something to where we can actually grow as a world and a community, then what is ever the point of ever trying to understand each other? What is the point of actually sitting down and wanting to be equal? Why is it that if a white person takes my life, I suddenly matter, but if a black person does it, I mean nothing? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel. Go subscribe to Gothics if you don't know who Gothics is. She's an amazing content creator, and I thank her for joining me on this video. I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.